Listening to Grace, Geltman, and Weld on the Hammer Factor. Take it away, boys.
What do you mean? What was so defining about that?
I don't know. I don't know. I can't put my finger on it.
It had a lasting impact on me.
That's just weird. When we can have Nikki Kelly come on?
She said she would come on anytime.
God, I'd love to just have her talk about you for a little bit. That would be a treat.
Why?
I just think it would be wonderful to see what it's like to be in a relationship with John Grace, especially in those circumstances, which were pretty crazy, right?
They were definitely pretty intense.
Yeah.
Oh, she'd come on the show.
I have a feeling she'd be no holds barred.
She would be unfiltered.
Yes. Yes.
For sure. She would be unfiltered.
What's Geltman's timeline here?
He says he's on a conference call, but we'll drop a line when ready. Let's just go ahead and get started. We don't have Sam Davis on the line, but we'll get him shortly, I'm sure.
All right.
All right, welcome to Hammer Factor, episode 77. 77. If we make it to 100, it will be an absolute miracle.
Let's do it.
Episode 77. We got us a hell of a show lined up. We've got a green race coming up, so this will be the start of me constantly talking about that. Upper Yacht race update with Corey Weld. Sounds like it was a good race up there. We have a first-hand account of what sounds like a dramatic rescue and kind of the positive story we all need right now with the rescue at the Kanawha Falls on the Kanawha River. Kanawha.
Yeah, this is a scoop. I feel like this is a scoop right here.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear this. It's going to be really interesting. So the two people who we have on the show, one was the main rescuer and one was the main rescuee. They have not spoken since the rescue. So it's going to be interesting to hear both their accounts from the different angles of everything was going on. We have Meme Boof on the show. Well, how did you line up Meme Boof for the Hammer Factor?
It's not easy. I mean, there's a lot of back channel dealings. Meme Boof's pretty elusive. I don't think many people know who Meme Boof is.
I don't know who Meme Boof is.
It's Mr. Boof to you. I don't think you're quite there yet, but okay.
I mean, literally here on the Skype, it is Meme Boof who we're engaging. So to me, it's still anonymous.
Are we going to see Meme Boof's face?
I hope not. You know,
I hope not either.
I want Meme Boof to be. I have an idea of who Meme Boof is, and I don't want it shattered.
He's like ABRG.
Exactly.
Who is ABRG? Exactly.
All right, I'm right there with you. He's going to give us an update on the COVID outbreak in Banks and all things meme, Boof. We've got policy updates, listener mail, and of course, everyone's favorite rants and raves. So, Mr. Weld, what have you been up to?
Well, greetings from Maui again.
Oh, look who's here. Look who magically comes in. Oh, I didn't even introduce our host here, but that's perfect.
Hello.
All right. Yeah. Looky there. Just
anyway,
like that.
As I was saying, greetings from Maui, guys.
Are we recording already?
Yeah, we're already hot into this. Let me introduce my co-host. My name is John Grace, producer here at the Hammer Factor. We have Louis Geltman, policy director for the Outdoor Alliance, and John Weld, whitewater legend and owner of Emergent Research. Episode 77. Louis, you missed a little bit of stuff there at the beginning. Primarily what's going to be in the show. So we got a good show lined up for you.
The pre-show is the only part that I actually legitimately enjoy. The rest of it is just, whatever. But I am excited. I am excited to be here for another celebration of bro culture.
Unless Team Beer is on, in which case Lewis cannot get enough.
Oh, so true.
He's like the paddling equivalent of a believer.
That's right.
Team Boof.
Lewis, what have you been up to? What kept you from the Hammer Factor?
I was on a call about the Public Lands Renewable Energy Development Act, which I'm trying to, jump back into the middle of the conversation on that one. But
I thought you're done. You did the land whatever conservation thing. That's it. You're done. Relax.
No, I regret to inform you that everything is still fucked.
Nah.
I feel like we had like a sweet moment of sunshine there and got our pats on the back, and I was just thinking we need to record this more often because it's like so much has happened since the last time we actually got everybody on the phone. It's like I feel like I'm well past our high of actually getting something positive done and back into the pain cave.
Well, I just got to share with you guys something that Hillicky sent to me last night. It's the Guide to Perpetual Stoke. And if you know Tommy, he probably lives by this more literally than most would believe. But number 1, be stoked. Okay? Number 2, be stoked because you are stoked in an endless feedback cycle. Number 3, realize that you control how much stoke you derive from any external input. So get really stoked about any little thing. Number 4, get stoked knowing you'll be stoked in the future. And most importantly, number 5, in a situation where it's hard to be stoked, realize that even if you're a little stoked, it merits being more stoked, incrementally until you are at full stoke.
Oh God.
We've
We've
reached like the Stuart Smalley stage of bro culture now.
It used to be back in the,
That was
back in like
fully
the
by
70s.
design.
You just get like a poster with like a cat hanging from a tree that just hang in there, and that was it. That's all. That's it.
I like to just like close my eyes and envision James Byrd, and that usually gets me there.
Oh God, or any of the rest of Team Beer. All right, so let's see if I can get our guests on the show here.
Are they jumping on here between like CNN hits at this point?
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. They have been all over the news cycle, these
We
boys.
totally snuck past the Today Show producers.
Yeah.
They're like running around like, who the hell's Hammer Factor? There's like a whole team of interns trying to Google us right now.
Yeah, I do something because you're usually not such a stickler on the punctuality, Grace.
I'm not?
Actually, that's not true. You're always early. I take that back.
Come on, I'm
Hey,
on
boys.
my game here. Hey, Corey, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
All right, we got you loud and clear. You sound better than all the rest of the hosts.
Right on.
And then it looks like we also have Sam Davis. Are you there?
Yes, sir. I'm here.
Okay, so we have Corey. Do you have any chance we can get some video there on your feed? Sometimes it makes it a little easier to talk. If not, it's no big deal.
Yeah, how do I, let's see. Oh, there we are. Right on. Cool.
All right,
Yep.
so do you guys... Okay, so let me give a little backstory here. So there was a rescue that made its rounds first on social media, and then it seemed like it was on every news show, local news station there in West Virginia, and then next thing you know, I'm seeing it on bigger and bigger outlets, and these boys have been kind of inundated with... I mean, everything from, I believe, Corey, you've been talking to the governor of the state. Is that correct?
I did not talk directly to the governor, but he gave me a shout out.
Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, what happened was there was a pretty dramatic rescue at, am I saying this right? Well, Kanawha Falls?
Kanawha.
Kanawha Falls?
Yep.
At Kanawha Falls on the Gauley.
Kanawha River.
Oh, the Kanawha River. That's below the confluence.
It's when the new and Golly come together.
Yeah, below the confluence. And it was dramatic in the way that it was sort of started out as all was lost and all was right in the world. And this is the first time these two boys have spoke. One was the rescuee, one was kind of part of the rescue. And if you guys are fine, I would like to get right into it. Sam, can you lead us off and just kind of tell us a little bit about your kayaking background, where you're from, that kind of thing, and how everything started that day?
Okay, yeah. So I'm from Tennessee. I grew up on a farm outside of Nashville here. I went to school in Knoxville, and so I actually went to college on a golf scholarship originally, and very quickly realized that I didn't love it. And I had wanted to learn how to paddle for years and didn't know how to break into that community or to do that. And so I became a raft guide at the Nantahala on the other side of the mountains from Knoxville there. And there was a really strong group of paddlers there at the time. They got me into boating, and, you know, I wanted to be good enough to go up to the Cascades and boat with those guys, because they never wanted to boat with me on the Nantahala. So I found my passion for the first time in my life and have been paddling ever since. I do freelance work for ESPN and like SEC Network doing sports production during the fall and the winter. And then I raft guide in the summers. So I've got 5 seasons now. I guided my last season. I didn't guide this summer with COVID and everything going on, but I guided last season in Glenwood Springs on the Colorado in the Roaring Fork. But yeah, so five seasons raft guiding, paddling all the time, especially being in the Southeast. You know, we get to boat all winter off the rain.
And all summer the last few years.
Yeah, it's been, well, being in Colorado last summer, I had never seen so much water as was in Colorado last summer. We were running Obi Joyful in the middle of July at high water. You know, it was a heck of a year to be in Colorado. But yeah, so that's a little bit about my background and me boating. As far as the day went, I paddled the upper Golly. In my RPM, I would say it was probably my best day on the Golly in 4 years.
Sweet.
Kind of bounced around from groups to group. I started with a group, and they had some first timers that were kind of struggling and having some swims like at INSIG and things. And I hooked up with another group and went downstream rather than wait on them. And that was a lot of the crew that was supposed to meet me at Kanawha Falls that afternoon. That was the plan. We were supposed to be there. I waited at Woods Ferry for like over an hour and made the decision to go over there on my own, just from having I did like 28 laps in 2 days at Golly Fest last year, and I've boated it a lot, but never alone and never that high. And it was a terrible, terrible, terrible decision to go out there alone.
So just as a background, Kanawha Falls is downstream of the Golly, and like Corey was saying, it's where the two new Golly meet, but it's basically flat water, then a waterfall, and then flat water. It's something like Valley Falls if you've been there, except there's just one waterfall. Yeah. It's kind of a unique feature. You kind of drive. It's just like a park and huck type situation.
Yeah, I parked at the lake and I paddled across. I ran the drop by the dam, and then paddled over and hiked up to run the high flow drop. Scouted it, ran it really far left the first time, had a good line, walked back up, and didn't get as far left this time, and really kind of got pushed into that curler and melted middle. Or I might have even been just left of the curler when I came off even, but I plugged in the hole pretty hard. And it.
So how high is the falls? Like how big a vertical drop is it?
What do you think, Corey? Like 15 feet?
15 feet at its vertical. It's about a 10-foot cascading drop into the 15-foot drop.
Okay.
Yeah. And the hole worked me and typewritered me right. By the time I rolled up on the boils, I was at the new veil that was forming over the pocket there, and I kind of got, like, as soon as I rolled up, I got kind of squirted and was trying to avoid that and avoid the wall, but I hit the wall, and I went right under the wall. And as soon as I started to go under the wall, I pulled my skirt because I didn't want to be under there with my boat, in my boat. I spent about 45 seconds under there, would be my guess. I didn't have my GoPro on. I took a picture peeling out of the eddy at the top on accident, so my video wasn't rolling. But I would say it was about 45 seconds. I roofed out like 5 times trying to come up where I thought, surely to God, I'm going to come out this time. And then I hit the rock again. So I clawed on the bottom of the rock and just like picked a direction and clawed. And I came out, but I was on the pocket side. I could see my boat coming out of the wall, stern first, and going the other way. Once I was getting kind of recirculated back into the pocket. So it's a really weird eddy. I don't know. So the eddy pulls you back up to the top, to the main flow drop. And from there, I'm trying to bust as hard as I can to swim, which, I mean, when I first came out of the wall, I was seeing purple. I had like a purple haze over everything. I was really out of breath. So I got recirculated in the eddy maybe once or twice before I made an attempt to bust and swim up over the seam, over the boil. And I didn't make it. It pulled me deep. I popped up and was going right at the wall again. So I swam really...
Sorry to interrupt, Sam. So how far downstream of where the waterfall meets the landing is the cave? Like give me...
It's like 90 degrees, maybe 40 feet to the right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're talking a
Probably
big
like 10
area
feet downstream, but 40
around.
feet to the right.
Yeah,
Okay.
but it's walled out on one side and it's a heavy boil on the other. And like I said, there was kind of a new veil that was forming. It was high enough that veil was...
The golly bubble was coming in, so it added 2,800 CFS really quick. So that veil is normally not there at levels that you guys typically paddle.
The veil was there. And so like as I would go for the wall, obviously I didn't want to go under there again. It was one of the most horrific experiences of my life. And that was before the rest of it. That's what started it all. So I would swim really, really hard towards the eddy, but there was a lot of down suction, and then I would hit the veil. The veil would send me deep. I would pop up behind it in the pocket, spit out water, and it'd be taking me for another round.
Okay, so you were just getting cycled in this area that if you didn't kind of commit to going back into the main flow, you were going to go into the cave.
I was going to go under the undercut
Under the
again.
undercut, I should say.
Yeah. So...
And so you're ending up basically behind the curtain eventually. I mean, that's where this whole thing ends up, with you behind the curtain of the falls there.
What happened, okay, so for like an hour and a half, I was getting recirculated because I couldn't get back to the back pocket. There's a back pocket in the very corner.
Hour and a half. Okay, we got to put this thing into perspective here. Okay, so at this point, you're an hour deep. Okay.
When did you arrive at Kanawha Falls?
In that time, there are crimps on the wall, and I'm grabbing those crimps. And I'm holding as long as I can, but like there's so much current loading on me that I can only hold for so long at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to avoid getting lactic while also like trying to hold there long enough to get energy to make the swim over the eddy line again.
Mm-hmm.
What time did you
I hit the wall a
your
second
boat?
time, and I only went under the wall maybe 10 seconds the second time, but that was enough to scare me out of trying to swim across the boil again. Yeah, I was done after that. So I held on to the crimp, and one of those times holding on the crimp, I looked over and there was like an old rusty like railroad tie type bolt. I don't know if there used to be a mill there back in the day or what it was, but I saw it and I was like, that crack's pretty big. There's nothing to clip to. So then I got ripped off the wall. I did another circulation. I got back on the same crimp, and I was able to hold on with one arm, unzip my PFD. I had some extra webbing and a carabiner, and I was able to like hammer it with my fist in the other hand into the crack, kind of wedged in the rock, but also against that bolt. And
wow, smart move, man.
Hooked that tether on me, so then I could just float there and try to get rid of that elasticity and like get some energy.
And so all this time,
I was really, really, really gassed at this point.
Yeah. So,
to
take a step back. What time did you start? Like, what time did this whole event begin?
6 o'clock would be safe.
So now it's like 7:30 at
The
night.
last communication I have was at like 5:38, sending a text to Albert before I literally closed the door and put in.
Okay.
You know, it takes like 90 seconds to paddle over to the first drop to walk up, and I mean, I walked up and ran it. You don't have to look at that one as much.
So when you're trying to are you trying to decide if you're gonna like commit and make the swim in front of this undercut wall, or like what's your plan? Like where are you trying to swim to all this time, or are you just trying to like hang on and
At this
survive?
point, I'm trying to hang on because I had been trying to hang on and then swim across the eddy line. After the second encounter, because it's like I would get there and then it would take me deep. I had both shoes ripped off in this point, which were like the high top NRS booties, zipped and Velcroed on, and it ripped those all the way down off my shins and off my feet.
Yeah, this area he's in it's gnarly, like especially with the veil coming over. I mean,
And so it's like each lap, like you're either gonna like make it all the way out, end up back in the eddy, or if you
that point where I have to commit to swim away from the undercut at the last second, hit the veil. Veil sends me
got
deep.
it.
Okay. So you're going into the veil, surfacing, and you've got a choice to make it across the eddy line or just duck back into the safety of the area so you don't hit the cave.
Yeah, exactly. So
okay.
What I realized was back in the back corner, hanging on the wall in the crimp and looking in the back corner, there was water that wasn't recirculating forward. It was maybe like a 5 or 6 feet by 4 feet area, a triangle area, that water was boiling up, but it wasn't releasing forward towards the drop. So I knew I needed to get back there. So I held and had my energy and held on the tether for a while, and then I kicked off the wall. It probably took me like another half dozen attempts of like, this time I wasn't ever aiming to get across. I was intentionally trying to swim into the corner of the veil near the wall and go deep. And as I was going in, I was twisting towards the eddy line. Like I was throwing my arms end over end and twisting. And on like the 5th or 6th attempt, I popped up on the boil and then swam like hell for that back corner to get over the boil. And once back there, the water was not releasing forward. I couldn't sit, but I was able to get my back up against the wall and my feet kind of up against the roof of the crack where they come together like this.
So you're like chimneyed.
Yeah. I chimneyed for about 20 or 30 minutes. And then that's when I was like, okay, it's getting dark. I'm going to have to fight hypothermia. I need to get out of the water. And I noticed under the surface of the water to the right, so the wall that forms the undercut kind of curves back into the corner.
Mm-hmm.
There was a ledge there at the base of that wall. So I was standing more than ankle deep, less than shin deep, barefoot. It wasn't wide enough to stand foot by foot, but I could stand foot over foot. And I stood there for probably 5 hours.
What were you wearing?
I was in a long sleeve thermal shirt and swim trunks. And like I said, my shoes were ripped off, so I was barefoot.
Holy smokes. Okay. Corey, let's turn this over to you. So, Corey, who are you? And did you guys know each other before this incident?
First off, Sam, it's nice to meet you, man. Because this is really the first time I've got to speak to you, and what a crazy experience this is kind of right now. My name is Corey Lilly. I'm from West Virginia. I'm a native here. Many people in the whitewater industry might know me from Boof and Destroy. It's kind of my media project that I do for fun. And I hosted Kanawha Falls Festival and helped to make the area popular along with the other boys here in Fayetteville. And so I felt kind of a personal attachment to this area. I'm sitting on the couch, tired from mountain biking, and I'm just scrolling through Facebook, and there's like this guppy Facebook group page called Kayak West Virginia for mainly flatwater kayakers. And this woman, I actually have her name here, Felicia Coiner, I'm probably pronouncing her last name wrong, made a post that said, hey, if you've lost your kayak, it's floating down here below Kanawha Falls. And I saw it. It was like a very distant photo in front of the island, in front of high flow. And I noticed that it was a Max, the RPM Max. I was like, that's a whitewater boat. So I immediately had some suspicion. She was the one that initiated the calls to the authorities because she saw your car in the parking lot. And there's a boat missing. So she kind of initiated all that. Then someone else posted a piece of drone footage of Sam boating the powerhouse line. And so I took a screenshot of that drone footage that was posted in the comments of that thread, and I started sending it around. I sent it to Clay Wright, Stephen Wright, because I knew you're from Tennessee based on your tags. And so I was trying to connect with people down there. The word got back that it was you and Sam Davis. And so then I went onto your Facebook, and I saw that you were tagged in a photo with Albie Binkley. And I'm friends of Albie, so I called Albie. Albie is already en route down to Kanawha Falls. It seemed like he was responding to a call from your family, I believe. At this point, your family had been contacted. And so he just kind of jumped in the car, ran down there with Matt Jackson and Zach Frisbee. They didn't have any gear, but I knew they were on their way down there when I was talking to them. And so I asked them, I was like, well, ask the DNR if they're going to let me come out if I bring my gear down. So as soon as I get there, I get off the phone with them. I start loading up my gear. I asked Paul Griffin, who was at the house with me, if he wanted to go, and Stephen Wright, and the two of them
Corey,
said yes.
I hate to interrupt, but what time is this?
Yeah. Okay, yeah. This is I started seeing these posts around 9 p.m.
Okay.
So Sam had you swam around 6 p.m., I think, and so he had already, at this point, 3 hours. Search and rescue called off their rescue efforts around that time that I was seeing the post, because I saw in the post that they were calling off their efforts, and I was like, all right, well, we need to go check, because I'm sure they didn't check this spot.
So the back of your head, you're thinking this is, if someone swims there, there's an excellent chance they're going to end up in this little pocket behind them.
Yeah, it's kind of now becoming notorious pocket. I've rescued people out of that spot a handful of times already. I've seen other people get pulled out of there. So it is a spot that for search and rescue, who are not really whitewater folks, they could easily overlook it because it's tucked away. And come to find out, they were just in a John boat, and I don't think they got out on any of the shore.
They didn't have the boat capabilities to get close enough to like really have an angle to look over there. They didn't have the intuition to walk up top.
Sam, did you see them, or could you hear them looking for you?
That's probably the lowest feeling I've ever felt in my entire life. I was watching them leave for the night and not be able to hear me. Like one of the biggest, so the water was high, but after dark hit, like right at dark and right after dark, the water rose by, I would say, a third. And I have talked to some other local boaters and the EMTs, and they were saying that because of the Hawks Nest Reservoir being worked on upstream right now, which has given us these lost new rapids nobody's seen in 80 years, they're pushing a lot of water at night. So, like, the veil I was behind that I was swimming into to go deep on to even get back there, Corey, it didn't look like that whenever I was going through all that. That veil probably doubled or tripled in size to what it was when you guys found me. And what I didn't know until I talked to some people last night was that because the acoustics of the cave, you guys could hear me screaming every time I screamed. And then somebody screamed back to me for an hour and a half straight. Man, I never heard a word of that. I could not hear you guys at all.
Really?
At all.
But
Damn.
Okay.
So that's why I kept screaming. I stopped screaming once you guys set up that Trev the Rev from South Carolina had a spotlight, like a portable work spotlight. And once that got set up, I stopped yelling as much because I knew you guys weren't leaving. But
that was actually a cell phone, man. That was actually I'll get to that actually. So back to on our pursuit down there, we loaded up after the DNR said that we could go out there after Albie made contact with them. And so we rushed down there. We actually had to stop at the gas station to get batteries for a headlamp. So we had 2 headlamps and 3 cell phones. We didn't have good lights, but I brought my climbing pack and we had all of our whitewater gear. And so we rushed down there, get down there pretty much immediately, just chit-chat really quickly as we're putting on our gear, paddle out there. And there's an unsung hero in all this. There's this guy, Billy Hager, who's only been paddling a few months from a town.
I talked to last night. Billy reached out to me last night, found my number.
Yeah, and Billy only been paddling a few months. From Beckley, which is like probably an hour and 15 minutes away from that, saw these same posts I did, and he showed up by himself. I mean, this guy has like, he's driving like a Cadillac with like foam on top of his car. That's, like, and he's really an unsung hero in this. He helped us. So anyways, we're in the parking lot. I'm like, Billy, get your gear together, because he's a childhood friend. And so Stephen Wright, Paul Griffin, and Billy Hager and myself paddled across, and we went immediately to this spot, this pocket, and rolled up, and we had headlamps. Paul was the first one to make the approach, shined a light down there, heard you yell, kind of looked around, noticed it wasn't any of us, and then it was like fireworks coming out of Paul's mouth. He was whistling. He's like, holy shit, he's alive. He's alive. And whoa, what a like crazy rush that was.
Dude, I got cold chills just hearing it, dude. That moment must have, you'll know that. Yeah, anyway, I'm sorry, go on.
Yeah, I mean, it really was like all of us were just like, holy shit, because honestly, we thought we were going down there for a recovery, to be quite honest. And so Paul made the comment when he put his hand in the water when we were getting in to paddle across. He's like, the water's pretty warm. He could be alive. And so there was like that slight bit of hope that was being passed around. And then we pulled up, and sure enough, you were down there, man. And we were like, oh my God. And this is pitch dark at this point. This is at 10:30 when we finally made contact with Sam. So that's already 4.5 hours at this point. So now it's just the four of us assessing what to do. We knew that Sam was stable because, I mean, he had been there for so long and he's yelling back at us. So we knew he was stable to a certain extent. We knew it was an emergency, so we wanted to make contact with him. So we're trying to yell, which, man, it's crazy that I guess you could only see our lights.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
That's why anytime you guys walked away to try to set up or figure out what you were doing, I started screaming bloody murder because I didn't want to be left again, man.
Yeah. No, we could tell that. And so that's what we had Billy, this new boater that was there. We just had him stand there with a light pointed on, because we noticed anytime we turned the light away, you'd be like, no, like, don't leave. And so we were like, all right, we got to help keep Sam calm. And so that was like Billy's like job. We were like, and we didn't know where you were at. We might thought you could be swimming in that eddy still. Like, we didn't want you to jump out or anything like that. So we were like, all right, we got to keep eyes on him the whole time. So Billy stayed there with a light on you. He was hollering his ass off the whole time too.
That's what he was saying. He said, I felt helpless because I was yelling and I could tell you couldn't hear me because you kept yelling back like you did. I never heard him.
Really?
Never heard him.
Oh. And so then Paul, Steven, and I began making assessments on what we were going to do. We waded out to some of the kind of like rocks that were just under the water that were close to the lip, because where it was dark, we thought there might be a break in the veil that was like a straight shot to where Sam was. So we were like, all right, maybe we can get up above the veil and maybe lower a rope to him. We assessed a different option for like, maybe we could get a boat to him and he'd paddle out. We weren't exactly sure what we were going to do. So we started wading out on tethered to our rescue vests. And then there was like, all right, well, we could get out to this one really sketchy spot right above the falls, and that Steven was like, I think I could do it. And I was like, man, it would probably just be safer for one of us to try and paddle the falls. And so then we recollected, and Steven decided to stay up top, and I decided to make the call to run the falls. And so I put on a headlamp and ran the falls into that eddy right at the veil. Did you know this, Sam? Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw you. I was really hoping you weren't going to try to paddle back into where I was at when I saw you land.
Yeah.
Because
because there was for sure, dude, for sure. I was like, it was one of the sketchiest things I've done, because you have a headlamp on, you're paddling in the middle of the night. There's no moonlight, there's no moon out, and every time you take a paddle stroke, you get blinded by the light. And like, we're talking like, this is the hard move. Like, Sam's a good paddler, and he, got put in this situation. Like, so Like, this is a hard move to make. It's like high volume waterfall with a gnarly eddy and veil that it's getting sucked into. So it was like by no means like an easy move. And I dropped down into there. I normally always paddle with glasses on, but I had my contacts at this point, and so I'm like getting sprayed by the mist. I have a head injury from skiing that messes with my vision, and I was like disoriented. Thank God Paul was like, on the shore bank saying up, 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 because I was starting to get sucked back into there. So anyways, I made a few spins around in that eddy, saw the break in the veil, and realized it was just rock and that you were totally back in that pocket. So we had located exactly where you were, which helped a lot. And then I peeled out of that in front of the undercut and got back up top. At this point, we knew that we weren't going to be able to get you out by just the 4 of us, so we had to call in reinforcements. And so we made a call to Albie and Josh Collins, Albie Binkley and Josh Collins, and Albie was able to get, I got their names, and I'm probably missing 1 or 2 of them because they're just as much heroes as anyone else. Aaron Erdrich, Joel Windblot, Jake Orich, and Ben Jorkman. There may have been 1 or 2 people that I'm missing that I've tried to get everyone's names. They showed up in the middle of the night. By this point, it's like midnight. And because we knew we didn't want to lower a rope down to Sam.
Just a quick side note. Those guys are, Aaron is a very good friend of mine. He flew out from Portland. I paddled in white salmon on the truss with him earlier this summer for the first time. He took me down the Middle Fork salmon on his permit back in May of 2018. Very, 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 very close friend. And so that was a friend group. When they got the call from Albert, they already had their rafts loaded from the day before because they were going to paddle the next morning. And they said they were driving so fast, they passed the DNR vehicle that had the boat trailer on the back with the motorboat. So they were going like 90 and passed those guys on the way to get on there.
Oh, that's awesome, because DNR and first responders sat on the shore bank the whole time during all this. There's like 40 of them with their thumbs up their ass. I don't know what the hell.
That's a whole other thing we got to get into after this show, because
and they showed up on the scene, and at this time, Steven and I paddled back across the lake to get to the first responders. Say, hey, we need help, because we knew we only had one chance if we were going to lower this rope down to Sam. We weren't going to be able to pull him out. We knew that Sam was probably too tired to pull himself out. He was going to be up through the veil of the waterfall, and we had to have like a crew that was going to basically yank him up and out once we lowered down a rope. And so we knew we only had that one chance. So luckily those boys show up and paddle across with us when I was trying to get the Swiftwater rescue crew and like the fire department to come with us, and they said they were going to come, but they never did. And so it was just the whitewater community that showed up to do this. And
I hate to interrupt again, but it's funny reading the news reports because they give a lot of credit to the Swiftwater
Jim
rescues.
Justice, the governor, totally botched that because he tried to turn it into his first responder. Yeah, that's a whole nother thing.
I'm sorry. Continue.
Yeah, I got pretty upset about that because it was the community at work, not these first responders.
You mean Jim Justice
every
didn't
river
do the
town,
right thing? I'm stunned.
Every river town needs a liaison. The same way the Chattooga has a group of people that they call when someone goes missing. Like every river town needs that, like the Chattooga has.
Yeah, you're right.
And not just river towns. Think about mountain bikers, rock climbers. They're going to know the terrain and know the area better than anybody. And we should have every first responder group should have a group of people on speed dial that if they can't do something, they can enable the community to come out and do something.
Mm-hmm. And that's what we pulled together, was that kind of community, and they acted quickly and got out there. And then at this point, we were like, all right, we got enough boys, we got a rope, and so we hooked up carabiner. I mean, it's a pretty simple system. It was just carabiner on the end of a rope, and then the key was that we hooked a headlamp on the rope too, so that Sam could see it. And I have to give a shout out to Steven Wright for he was very much top of the line, like in organizing this stuff and just keeping like group dynamics together. He definitely was the leader in all of that. And so then at that point, we lowered down the rope to Sam. And Sam, I'd like to hear your perspective at this point. What was it that you saw the light or what?
Oh man, I got so fired up and excited. It was at the end of my ledge I was standing on though. And so that whole inside wall, once the veil rose at dark, that wall was also had water coming in, flowing down it. So like when I was standing in there, I couldn't even lean up against the wall. I was having to stand erect against the wall, you know. And to fight the hypothermia, I had pulled my skirt up higher, as high as I could get it. And I had crossed my shirt was long sleeve, so I got it down around my hands, and I got my arms crossed, and I got my hands under, and then I tied my PFD up on the top of my chest, not so much lower. And I was measuring my heart rate. Anytime I got close to 60 beats per minute, I was knowing I was going into the first bits of hypothermia. So I would start doing like squats or like leg lifts or
damn, dude,
back and forth. Anything I could do down in there to fight the hypothermia. I had 2 Lara bars, and I was about 30 minutes away from eating the first one when you guys showed up. So I actually walked away with 2 Lara bars. But
just reserved.
No, dude, I was trying to make it
plenty of time.
I was trying to make it till daylight. So when I saw that, it was at the end of my ledge, and I couldn't hardly reach it. And a couple times I like got it and was pulling it over to untie the headlamp, and then you guys yanked the rope up.
Yeah,
and the rope went away, and it was like, oh no, come back, come back, I need that. But yes, you guys finally got it down to me. I was able to get enough slack to get it over to me, get the headlamp off. I remember from my Swiftwater rescue class with Will Norris at the NOC, huge shout out to those guys and their attention to detail, that your quick release belt won't always quick release if it's twisted through the latch mechanism, like through the belay before it goes into the latch. So I twisted my strap twice and then ran it before I hooked up, because I was like, man, I really do not want this quick release to come off and go face first into this watery grave I have been avoiding for so many hours.
Yeah.
So I hooked up in the back, and they pulled me up. The first attempt, the rope slipped back into the crack where the rocks meet. And you guys were like crushing me into the roof of the cave.
I bet, because the rope
like
stops.
Almost broke a rib, but didn't, which was awesome. I was able to get like a face and like a half of an arm through the veil and yell stop that I needed slack.
I remember that.
You guys gave me slack, and at that point I just kind of started climbing on the rocks to get out from under the edge, climb through the veil. I don't remember who it was that grabbed my PFD first to help me get up and over that ledge and up and over that. I just remember laying on that rock, and Aaron Airdrich, my good buddy, just hugging me and telling me that it was you guys, and putting a jacket on me and just like laying on that rock beside me.
Oh man, that was when we pulled you up. I remember like the last 5 feet of yanking you, and we didn't want you to fall back in by any means, so we like yanked you 5 feet further up onto the rock. We like dragged you like further. And then
my finger got stuck under the rope and the rock. I didn't even know it was torn up until I was in the ambulance later, you know? Like, so much adrenaline.
Oh my gosh.
That has got to be the most epic rescue I've ever heard.
Seriously. 40 years of paddling. That's number one.
Oh my God, dude. And a positive outcome with a
right?
I mean,
I know.
A bloodied up finger. That was the worst of the whole thing. Is that what I'm
hearing?
Yeah,
just bruises and scrapes, and a little bit of muscle damage from hanging onto the rock with one arm to get that carabiner in the crack. I've been having to drink a lot of water. I've been drinking like 12 to 15 bottles of water a day so that my kidneys don't hurt. But you know,
Corey, was there ever a point?
Get that problem, I'll be all right.
Corey, was there ever a point when you guys were considering live baiting someone in there?
Yes, there was. We thought for a second that was going to be the only way, and we were going to do that if this attempt failed of just lowering the rope down, because none of us wanted to go down there. It was gnarly. Yeah. I mean, it was like you're going through a veil of a waterfall down to them, you know, like
you're going into the unknown. You're just like,
yeah, totally into the unknown.
Man.
And you couldn't see anything down there. I mean, you were in pitch dark. Could you see anything when you were in there? Or was it just like this abyss?
I had like starlight through the crack that you're talking about where it just went to rock, the break in the veil. I could see like 2 to 3 stars through the top of that break in the veil. And when search and rescue was out there, there was quite a bit of light. Now, obviously, once you guys had the lights shining on the veil, and the guy from South Carolina had gotten his light set up, it totally illuminated back there. The light was reflecting through the veil. I mean, I had full light back there at that point.
That's good. Yeah, when those boys showed up, they brought more
lights. I
lights.
couldn't hear anything.
Oh, crazy.
You know, it was terrible, man. I will never, ever in my life go kayaking by myself again. And I've got a lot of friends that do. And I'm going to no longer not give them shit about it because they're all really, really, really capable, really, really talented boaters, a lot better boaters than I am.
Yeah, Geltman.
And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
He's talking to you, Geltman. Man, so outside, obviously, of paddling alone, what are some other takeaways that you guys got out of this?
Wait, before we move into this, just quickly, I would like to hear Sam's just tell me about your mental dialogue through this thing. I mean, are you?
Yeah.
I mean, are you thinking like this is it, or are you thinking I'm just gonna hold out like this until morning and just totally staying focused on where you're at? Like, I mean, tell me how that. I mean, that's a long time, man. Like,
it is, and there was a lot of different. Like, I faced the reality of my morality, and just. I faced my own mortality so many times in that cave in so many different ways. I mean, that first 45 seconds under the undercut was my worst experience in whitewater to date. If it had just been the 45 seconds, and then getting gassed and thinking about like, man, this isn't fair to my sister who I talked to on the phone last before I came out here. This isn't fair to my girlfriend. Like, I want to see her again. It wasn't saying like I don't want to die. It was saying, man, I just want to see these people again. Like, I want to do this again. There was one point where I was thinking about looking over the Smokies, and I was like, man, I'm never going to see the Smokies again. And like, that's who I am to my core. And I pushed off the wall and swam a little harder on that lap, trying to get back in the back pocket. It was a complete bat. Like, and then once they left me, the mind really shifted to like every second is a battle. You're gonna fight hypothermia. Like, it was in the 40s that night. Like, and I was standing barefoot in the water. I've got a little bit of foot rot on my toes from it, but just the mindset was like, either you're going to be or you're not going to be, and that's the only two options, because I had faced the reality of I can't come out of here. There's no way I can get myself out of here. I'm going to have to just wait until morning, and if somebody doesn't come by X amount of point in the morning, I was going to try the swim in front of the undercut with a lower water level again. That was where I was at. It was just a matter of, I don't know how many times I said I'm not going to fucking die in here today.
Fuck yeah, dude.
I think I was screaming it. So.
What time did you guys pull him onto the rock? What time was the rest?
It was about 12:45 a.m.
That's what I was told.
So 6+ hours.
Yep. Oh man, props all around to you guys.
Seriously.
Just your intuition there, Corey, just to go with it. I mean, that right there, I mean, looking back, like what made you go with that? Was there an experience you had there or something? Like, what made you commit to checking that out?
After we got back that night, I didn't sleep all night until the morning because I felt guilty that I even entertained the idea of not going down there. I mean, I was like shooken up about that. You know what I mean? I was like, wow, like Sam would have had the most hellacious potential death if he was standing on that rock fighting for his life. Like, you just heard everything he went through, like, to know that. And I was just like, wow, I can't even believe that I was entertaining the idea. And all it was laziness. Like, I was sitting on the couch, I was about to go to bed, I was in my pajamas, and I was watching this stuff unfold, and I was just like, holy shit, like, damn, I'm gonna feel awful if I didn't do something. And Paul said the same thing. He was sitting right next to me. He's like, fuck it, we should go. And I was in communication with Steve, and I asked him if he wanted to go. He's like, yeah. So he right now is parked across the street from us, and we went and picked him up. And, the energy was pretty low going down there. And that, I don't know. Just everyone experiences in their life those like moments of, however you want to explain it, like grace, like opportunity, and everyone experiences those, and it's if you reach out and you take advantage of it. That's how people build their lives up. And it was just one of those moments where there was something that was going on, and I felt like I could make a difference, and I was at least going to try. That's just kind of my mentality when it comes to anything, like, and so that's
I'm
just...
really, 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 really glad that you didn't stay in your pajamas.
That's honestly, I've been joking about it this whole time. That was the crux of the whole rescue, was peeling my ass off the couch. And that, I think that's the crux for a lot of people's life, is peeling your ass off the couch to go do something with it.
Amen to that.
Hey, and I want to reiterate again, just like how thankful I am also to Felicia for doing the intuition work and for calling the police.
Right.
And the DNR officer, seeing the drone footage guy had left a note like, oh, got badass footage of you, here's my number. So they call him and they ask what the color of the boat in the video was. And they say, well, that's what's floating in the lake. And that's what initially got them to call my parents, to call search and rescue him. My parents were halfway up here before they even knew I was alive, up to West Virginia. I can't imagine what they were thinking or having to go through. And props to Albert Binkley for telling my mom that I was alive and getting her to stop crying, when he told me later he didn't believe that himself when he was saying it. And throwing everybody into action and calming my mom down. And they had half of Fayette County's boaters out in that parking lot, like, it's super humbling,
Dude, what an incredible story. And it just, I don't know, I've got cold chills like 35 times through you guys telling this story. This is pretty amazing.
Such a great piece.
Albert got his licks in first thing too. He followed the ambulance to the hospital, and he waited in Charleston. So when they discharged me at like 6:30, 7 a.m., he said, "Come here." And he slapped me in the face. And then he made me turn the cheek and take it on the other side.
Lewis, what were you saying? I didn't catch that.
Oh, it's just such a great piece of like good news, like it's just like, I don't know, like when I saw the story a couple nights ago or whenever it was just like, just made me feel so good, obviously from a long distance away, but just like, I don't know, there's just so much to feel down about. It's just like even cooler to hear the story from you guys, and just makes you feel better about the world, like
so true.
This was a piece of paddling news that brought our office to a complete halt, and we all stopped and were talking about it for like 10 or 15 minutes. And we're pretty jaded when it comes to paddle sports news. But it was a story where, like, what kayaker doesn't relate to what happened to Sam, right? I mean, we all know that could happen, you know what I mean? But at the same time, how many times have you dreamed about being part of a rescue like this, And
it coming out on the positive.
Yeah, it's I don't know. As a kayaker, it's an amazing story. Absolutely amazing.
So takeaways, don't ever give up.
Don't ever give up, man.
Don't ever give up on a rescue,
From Sam's point of view and ours, we thought it was a recovery, but just goes to show, go down there and find out.
Wear a rescue vest. Strap your booties tighter.
Or I would say, think about NRS in terms of your gear supplier, maybe.
Hey, Sam, I will make sure.
I can't get Astrals in a slicey boat, all right?
Hey, I will make sure that you get a new pair of NRSs out of this show. That is for damn sure. Holy shit.
There you go.
What else? What else from the top, Corey? What else can our listeners learn if they're ever in any kind of situation like this? What was the keys to coordinating, just having the point man as Steven, keeping everybody on task? What can we learn from your guys' perspective?
Yeah, I think that it's important to note that how we went about the authorities, because typically when you come up onto a search and rescue situation, the authorities are going to push you away, and because everyone knows number one rule of a rescue is don't create another rescue. They know that. They don't want some random people coming up and making it a bigger situation. And so we really had to be we had to present ourselves as professionals, and not come off as these like hoodlums that are just going out to try to do something. So if you do have the knowledge and you do think that you have the skill set to help, then make the action. You have to give that personal assessment. You don't want to go in there and create another rescue or something just trying to be a hero. I think that's important to know that if there is someone that has that skill set, let them kind of take the lead. So we had to convince the DNR of that, and they said yes. And so that was the second crux after following the intuition of getting up off my ass, and then just being prepared, knowing different systems and knowing that we could do safely within our skill set. Like it took a lot of personal examination, like right before I ran that drop to see if I could get down there. That was definitely a risky move, but I'd done it a lot, paddled there a lot. So making sure that you're just within your skill set is a big takeaway to not create another rescue situation. And like I said, being professional in front of the rescue personnel.
Man, you guys are Whitewater Kayakers of the Year 2020.
Seriously.
Done deal.
Humbled to have you all say that. Seriously.
Man.
So much for you again, man. We need a beer sometime, man. If you're ever paddling in the Smokies or in the South, man.
Hell yeah. We should definitely have a beer, Sam. I'd be stoked to.
Dude, if you guys come to the green race, beers are on me as much as you want. For sure, man. Holy smokes. Whew, man. Does anybody have anything else they'd like to add? That is just an amazing story, and I'll be honest, I gotta listen to it a couple times here to just grasp it all. I mean, I'm blown away. I just can't imagine. It's so violent when you're in a situation like that, in a cave, big veil of water, like just the noise and the energy and just living in that environment for so long, Sam. I mean, did you numb to it?
I've never been that disoriented in time. I had no idea what time it was when y'all pulled me out. Like, absolutely zero concept of time. Huh. And the sun had not gone down, but it hadn't been that many hours since the sun had gone down. But like you're saying, it's just so disorienting and loud back there. You totally lose concept of time.
That's what I was wondering, if you just was there any out of body experience or something, being in the dark only with your thoughts, or was what did you?
No, not. I couldn't lean on the wall, so I was kind of having to prop my helmet against the roof on the one side. My legs would get gassed, and I'd have to, scream, motivate. I'm not going to die in here, whatever, do squats, leg lifts. I had an ACL surgery back in January, so, quarantine was, I was already quarantined when everybody else quarantined because I was learning how to walk again. But, I've been back. I'm back where I actually worked Monday Night Football the week before up in New York, the Pittsburgh game, Pittsburgh Steelers, New York Giants. So I'm back. I'm running. I'm back, but still my legs were getting pretty tired.
So you gonna run those falls again, you reckon? Or no? We're done.
Yeah, absolutely. With a massive group of people at low end.
That's another thing to take away is if Kanawha Falls is starting to become more and more popular since we had that festival there, and it's sketchy. People think that it's not sketchy looking at it, first off the first glance, but I mean there are sieves that are out there. They're huge, the biggest crack sieve I've ever seen exists out there. There's multiple different channels, and just don't blindly go out there, y'all. Whoever's listening to this, make sure that I'm going to make a beta video of all these spots that I'm aware of. And so be on the lookout for that if you're wanting to learn about that spot, because, Kanawha Falls has been, it's owned by Brookfield Energy Company. and it's been a very sensitive topic being able to get us to be able to paddle out there, and that's why it hasn't been popular in the past, is because you used to get fined, and then there's a switch in management, and I made a connection with them and a relationship to say, hey, like, we could do this safely, we should allow us to start paddling out there. And we've had that this whole time, and so just being safe affecting that, so you don't potentially ruin it for others if you go out there, you know.
Yeah, it's a very similar parking hook to Rock Island, and all the boaters around Rock Island, you know, Stephen Clay, all of them, they kind of have the same mentality too, and kind of have the level information and kind of not censor, but in a way censor who's out there paddling, just like they like to know, because they don't want to ruin access, you know. And it's such an incredible spot. It runs more than Rock Island, and it's into a lake in most spots. So, you know, I am sorry if I in any way have messed up any kind of access, but I would think this would help.
We're
with
good,
access.
buddy. We're good. Don't worry. I've been talking to a lot of people. We're good.
I would point out Valley Falls, I think, is in the same category as well, because Valley Falls is a thing that to somewhat, even to a trained eye, looks like a piece of cake. But there's been many close calls with kayakers, including myself. One of the closest I've ever come to drowning when I was a kid was at Valley Falls. And then I've watched a couple of pretty good kayakers get really badly beaten down in there at higher water. It looks like it's really straightforward, but it's not. So I don't want to interject too much here. This is your story, but that is, I think, falls in that same category.
Mm-hmm. Certainly.
I think there's another discussion. I mean, we don't have time to get into it right now, but that discussion of when the rescue personnel need to know or make the decision to hand it over to someone who has a little more knowledge and a little more understanding of that situation.
I think the key is to establishing those relationships ahead of time, rather than frantically trying to explain yourself at the time of an emergency.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's not.
And I think you guys hit it right on the head. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
We've tried that in the past because the 2016 floods that happened in West Virginia, there was a lot of whitewater people that responded to that to help. And it's just hard getting through the local authorities, and I don't know if it's their ego or
this story right here is exhibit A through Q on why this should happen, right? I mean, if there's no better example of why this would be an essential point of discussion.
Mm-hmm. And I'm working with that. I've already had a lot of meetings with the DNR and some of our state senators and stuff. So
we definitely have that relationship down here on the green. But it's only on that river, which is what's funny. But I don't know. That's an essential thing, that it would be really nice if it worked out where there was that pod of people that were on speed dial, like you mentioned earlier in the show. Because, I mean, you know, even if it works 1 out of 20 times, that's 1 out of 20 times, you know.
It's a growing need around here, too, because now the New River Dries are being released, and it's not the Park Service that manages that, it's the DNR, and who's the DNR going to call, you know? It's totally inaccessible if you're hiking in. I mean, it would take so long to get down in there. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that points I've been bringing up, and hopefully, you know, if you keep up with what I'm doing, hopefully we'll have a good outcome, and we'll have this team organized soon.
Man, thank you guys so much for coming on the show. I mean,
that was awesome.
Sam, it's an emotional, heavy thing to talk about. You too, Corey. And, man, I appreciate you guys coming on and doing it. I think there was a lot to learn from this discussion. So,
thank you guys so much.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much. Glad. Yeah. Just so glad this ended the way it did. It's awesome.
Yeah, dog. This is great news. Anyway, guys, reach out if you need anything, and I'll be in touch after we get done recording here with a couple little tidbits.
Sweet. Awesome. Hey, and Lewis, it would be awesome to catch up with you sometime. I'm an executive director of a watershed group down here and lobbied for LWCF, and I'd love to talk to you.
Awesome, dude. Yeah, for sure. Hit me up.
Cool. Thanks, y'all.
All right, guys.
See y'all.
Have a good one.
Thanks.
Man.
Whew. I don't really know how to, I got to re-listen to that before I can fully digest the
What an
graphics.
amazing story, man. Just so, it's like just very moving, like hearing those guys tell that story, man.
Yeah.
Don't
And it's
ever
still,
quit,
I mean, it's
man.
still raw, you know.
Don't ever quit. I mean, that's the first time those guys have spoken. That's like how fresh this is in everybody's minds.
Nice work getting those guys on, Grace. That's cool, man. I feel like we probably did scoop a lot of people with that.
Yeah.
Well, I just saw it, and I was like, this is a story I want to... I mean, pretty much everything that comes on the Hammer Factor is like, I want to hear that.
First of all, we gave a half hour, and we kayakers talking to kayakers. It's not like, so when you shot the rapids with your raft, at what point did you execute the rescue? I mean, that's what we're going to get everywhere else. So we have that going for us.
Yeah.
Man.
Ah, God, that's heavy.
It is so heavy. I mean, just... Man. The authorities thing is definitely something. We were... One quick story before we get into the rest of the show here. I was in California in Sequoia National Park paddling the Kauai one time, and we rolled up, and we were getting ready to put on, and up there near where you put on at the park picnic area, I don't know the name of it. I can't remember the name of it. There's like law enforcement everywhere. Immediately we roll up and we're like, oh God, we're screwed. What do we do? They just flag us right over, and we're like, okay, we're done paddling here, whatever's going on. And taps on the window, we roll the window down, and he's like, hey guys, you planning on paddle this river? And we're like, yeah, not sure what to say. And they're like, well, we'd love to talk to you because was a little 9-year-old boy who got swept into the river, and like we look around and there's just all these family members, and they couldn't find the kid, and they enlisted our help to get in there to some of the spots and see if we could find this child, because the family had totally refused to leave, like period. They were like, we're not leaving until we find this kid. We went down the river and we did our best to look out. It was definitely one of the more somber trips down the upper or the middle Kauai that I've ever had, but we didn't find anything. But I mean, it was interesting that they enlisted our help, I guess is the point of that.
Yeah, there was, a few years ago, we had this like informally organized Cispus festival, and some guys who were not really a part of that, but had just like come up, like had a incident on the Cispus, and one guy broke his femur down at the bottom of this canyon, and the search and rescue guys came with like the rope truck to try to extract this guy, and it like really quickly became clear that the search and rescue guys.
Where did this happen?
Do you know the island drop? I think he
Yeah.
swam between the two drops and like broke his leg as he was going over the second one, and so
There's
he
a
was
road
like
like
on.
way up on River Right or something, right? But
It's
still not
closer,
easy.
yeah. It's closer than you think, but it's like probably 500 feet down.
Okay.
And the search and rescue guys were there, but they like didn't really know what to do. But it was with the ropes team. But Abe Herrera was there, and I guess at some point he had been like instructing the search and rescue guys on like rope stuff, and they let him just absolutely take over the entire rescue and was like, "This is what we're doing. Like, here's how we're doing it," and like just immediately took charge, like directed all the kayakers, all the search and rescue guys, and we had, like 1,000 meters of climbing rope from this truck that the search and rescue guys had driven up there. So we were able to do this like really complicated, involved rescue that involved like, pulling a guy up on a litter and like sort of traversing him across the river on the rope. But, all of this happened because the search and rescue guys were willing to like not only just let the kayakers get involved, but actually like let Abe take over the rescue and like tell those guys what to do. And, we were able to effectuate this thing. I mean, they were talking about trying to get like a helicopter or something, which is going to take, half a day. And Abe was like, no, like, I got this, like, do as I tell you. And, to those guys' credit, they listened to him, and we were able to like get this thing done.
I did a rescue with the Thomas, West Virginia Fire Department out of the North Fork of the Blackwater. And it was me and a half a dozen, I'm gonna say, big boys for sure, trying to get down to the canyon in this thing, and it was a scene, man.
I hate to generalize, but there's some big boys that end up on search and rescue teams. I don't quite know what it is about that, but
Yeah, the fitness level was not high. Let's just put it that way.
yeah, you got to watch your terminology, Weld. You got us into a little
Okay,
bit of
I want to
trouble.
get into that because I don't know. This is something that's been, well, yeah. We'll get to it when we get to it. Let's put it that way.
Well, do we want to talk about it right now? Do we want to bring Kara on and get a race recap here and just kind of get to the bottom of this?
Sure, let's do it.
I mean, is Kara around to give us a
Hey.
upper yacht race recap?
Hey, Kara, you ready? Tell when the kids get back from Japanese tutor, tell them that Suri made them green drinks for lunch. Okay. Disrupt.
I'm calling her.
All right.
I'm still blown away from that story. I'm probably not going to
I
come
am
back
too.
to full speed until all
Jesus.
this-
I know, I'm like emotionally exhausted just from having heard that.
I know. What a story.
What a story indeed. All right, welcome to the Hammer Factor Upper Yacht Race organizer, Kara Weld.
Hey guys, thanks for having me back on.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Feels
So,
like a lifetime ago, the Upper Yacht Race.
so Kara, tell us how the race went.
Okay, we'll conclude part 1 of this episode right there. Next episode, we'll get right into the Upper Yacht Race, bring on Meme Boof, get into listener mail, rants and raves, all the good stuff. Want to give a huge thank you and shout out to Corey and Sam for sharing that amazing story. That was pretty much mind-blowing, and appreciate everyone for listening, and we'll get you on the second half of this episode here in a couple days.